There is a voice that speaks through your choices, a presence that guides your reactions, an invisible hand that pulls the strings of your deepest fears. You might think this voice belongs to someone from your past, but the truth is more unsettling. It lives entirely within you now. This voice whispers through your need for approval, your fear of abandonment, your inability to rest without guilt. It shapes how you love, how you trust, and how you see your own worth. You are not fighting your mother. You are fighting the internalized version of her that continues to author your emotional responses long after you left home. If this resonates with something you've carried but never named, I invite you to subscribe to this journey of psychological exploration. These conversations go deep, and having you here means we can continue uncovering the invisible patterns that shape our inner worlds. Now let us examine what Carl Jung called the most persistent prison of the psyche, the mother complex that lives not in your history, but in your present moment. Jung understood that we carry more than memories from our earliest relationships. We carry entire psychological structures, complete operating systems that continue running in the background of our adult lives. The mother complex is not about blaming her. It is about recognizing how her emotional patterns, her fears, her way of loving, became the template for your nervous system's understanding of safety and threat. These patterns persist with startling precision. You may find yourself paralyzed by criticism that echoes her disapproval. You may sabotage love when it begins to feel too familiar or too foreign. You may exhaust yourself seeking approval from figures who can never fill the particular shape of recognition you crave. This is not weakness. This is your child mind's brilliant adaptation, still protecting you from dangers that no longer exist, still seeking resolution to conflicts that were never yours to solve. The prison is invisible because it feels like identity. The bars are made of what you believe about yourself, that your needs are too much, that love comes with conditions, that safety requires perfect performance. But recognition is the first key. When you can see the complex at work, you begin to distinguish between your authentic responses and the automated reactions of your inner mother's voice. In Jungian psychology, archetypes are not people. They are universal patterns of experience that live in the collective human psyche. The mother archetype carries immense power, the promise of unconditional love, perfect safety, endless nurturing. But when this archetype becomes distorted by personal experience, it transforms from blessing into burden. The inner mother becomes a harsh critic, never satisfied. She whispers that love must be earned through sacrifice, that boundaries are selfish, that your authentic desires are dangerous. This internalized voice doesn't speak in your mother's words exactly. It speaks in the language your nervous system learned when it was most vulnerable to her emotional climate. And here's where it becomes particularly insidious. You carry this archetype into every significant relationship. You may expect partners to heal wounds they didn't create, to provide safety in ways that recreate your earliest dynamics. When they inevitably fail to be the perfect mother you never had, you experience abandonment that feels existential, but they haven't abandoned you. The archetype has simply projected its unmet needs onto them, creating impossible standards that protect you from intimacy while appearing to seek it. To break free, you must first recognize when the archetype is speaking, when your emotional response is disproportionate to present circumstances, when you're reacting to the past while living in the present. There exists a loyalty deeper than consciousness, a silent agreement you never chose to make. to carry your mother's emotional burdens so she wouldn't bear them alone. This invisible loyalty manifests as self-sabotage that feels like love. You undermine your success just as it approaches fruition. You retreat from happiness when it feels too foreign to your family system. You replicate her patterns of suffering as a form of connection. If she was lonely, you maintain isolation. If she was silenced, you struggle to find your voice. If she was overwhelmed, you become perpetually busy. This unconscious mirroring feels like solidarity, but it is actually emotional stagnation disguised as devotion. The child in you learned that surpassing her emotional experience meant risking her love or losing her altogether. So you became the keeper of her wounds, the living memorial to her struggles. But her suffering was never yours to inherit. Your healing is not a betrayal, it is a gift. When you transform inherited pain into conscious growth, you offer your family lineage something new. Proof that these patterns can end, that cycles can be broken. The deepest act of love is sometimes refusing to continue carrying what was never yours to bear. The most radical act of healing is learning to mother yourself, to become the source of care, guidance, and compassion that you may have never consistently received. This is not about becoming soft or permissive. It is about developing the capacity to meet your own emotional needs with the same attention you would give a beloved child. When sadness arises, you don't dismiss it as weakness. When fear appears, you don't shame yourself for feeling it. When overwhelm takes hold, you ask with genuine curiosity, "What do you need right now? How can I help you feel safe?" This internal reparenting requires vigilance. You must notice when the critical inner mother gains ground, when your boundaries dissolve to maintain peace, when you repeat the same emotional patterns that never served you. You become both nurturer and protector, validating your feelings while guiding yourself toward truth, holding yourself through failure without drowning in shame, offering rest without guilt, celebration without permission. This is foreign territory because no one taught you how to be a good parent to yourself. But as this relationship strengthens, it becomes the foundation for all others. From this place of inner security, you stop projecting archetypal needs onto partners and begin meeting them as equals. Breaking the pattern doesn't require erasing your past. It requires choosing not to let that past continue writing your present. You may never receive the apology you deserved. You may never experience the maternal presence you longed for. But that is no longer the point. The point is that you are no longer a child waiting for rescue. You can choose to stop identifying with the wounded version of yourself that learned to survive through accommodation and self-erasure. You can choose to release the myth that healing requires someone else to change first. This transformation happens in the smallest moments, when you notice yourself saying yes to avoid guilt, shrinking to avoid envy, apologizing for taking up space. These are the entry points where the inherited voice still speaks. Question it. Who taught me this? Do I want to carry it any longer? This is where emotional adulthood begins, when you stop acting from habit and begin acting from intention, when you let your values lead rather than your wounds, when you catch yourself in a pattern, pause, and choose again. It's not one dramatic moment of transformation. It's 1,000 small revolutions, each one reclaiming a piece of your authentic self from the mother complex that no longer serves you. What you reclaim is not just freedom from pain, but space for something new, joy that doesn't need permission, self-worth that doesn't need proof, love that doesn't cost you your dignity. You don't need to sever ties with your mother to heal, but you do need to redefine her place in your inner landscape. Stop waiting for her to show up differently. Start showing up differently for yourself. The mother you seek, the one who sees you completely, accepts you unconditionally, believes in your worth. She is not behind you in your history. She is within you, waiting to be born. The more consciously you integrate this nurturing capacity, the less you need it from external sources. From this place of inner wholeness, you can love without dependence, without resentment, without distortion. Your relationship with your actual mother may transform as well. When you stop needing her to be different than she is, you can meet her as she actually is. Perhaps for the first time. This is not the end of your story. It is the moment you take authorship back when you realize that the pen was always in your hands. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. You are not your wound. You are the one who is healing it. And that changes everything.